The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to Conor Commentary, a hilarious take on news, politics, sports, and current events. It's time to buckle up. Here's Conor.
All right, guys, we are back, and we have a very special guest and a very special evening. We are running a 2-for-1. This is Conor Commentary and DPN Commentary, a sportscaster featured podcast, and we have Ray Rauth with us. Ray, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, man? How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm just so happy that for the first time ever that I don't have to plan the show, produce the show.
I know. We have Ben here for all of that. who is Ben? Is Ben still on your you-know-what list after all of the bad things he's done and said? He's laughing.
After he killed my dreams about doing voiceovers.
Yep, he did. That was step number one.
Just destroyed it. I mean, that was like I had a profession in front of me. Yep. Conor, you kept raising me up.
And
in one sentence, Ben just crashed me to the ground.
He did. What did he even say? I forget. It was bad though.
Well, there was two of them. First, he told me there was no money in voiceover.
Yep.
And then,
which is true.
Tell that to Seth MacFarlane. Then
you made me do a voiceover, and you said, "Ben, isn't that good?" And he said, "Oh, it's better than his play-by-play." So, and then like 2 weeks ago, out of the blue, I'm watching, Conor Commentary as I do. And he just starts talking shit about the Jersey Shore.
I know. That was the icing on the cake, man.
That was the icing on the cake.
Did you say that you had never seen it or that you thought it sucked?
I both.
Wow.
But you like the Real World, right?
Back in the day, sure.
Oh, you like the challenge.
I love the challenge.
Which is like, have you seen the challenge, Ray?
I have not.
No, it's like these bunch of people who are like roided out, like go and challenge each other at all these things.
It was basically
it's ridiculous.
The old Real World cast versus the old Road Rules cast.
Yeah,
they'd battle it out in kind of a Big Brother Survivor-esque competition.
Touche. What was Road Rules? You remember Road Rules?
No,
I don't either.
Road Rules was when they'd get. It was similar to Real World. They'd get like 6 people or whatever, and then put them all in an RV.
Oh,
and wherever they might be, it might be like the American Southwest. It might be Australia or something. And they have to just go around to different places and stay in that RV with each other. It's the same show.
So it was basically the RV version of the Real World.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
You know what? MTV kind of hit the nail on the head. They're like, let's just get a bunch of people, give them a bunch of booze, and then put them in a place with no TV or technology and just see what they do.
Well, you know what? It's like I'm watching this season's of Jersey Shore because it's a good show, Ben.
Yeah.
But this season it's like they're not really partying. They're like discussing their problems like adults.
Yeah.
They're like working things out. Like their biggest like adventure is going to the grocery store and getting food. And I'm like, no, I'm here to like watch Snooki get drunk and fall all over the place.
It's not the same.
It's not. Watching them age and like be in relationships and have kids and not just be like drunks has aged me very quickly.
Absolutely. Their ratings have to have gone way down. The peak was when they were all nuts.
Well, yeah, but it's like the American Pie movies. When American Reunion came out and I realized that I was in the same stage of life as them and that I grew up as the American Pie kids, I went, oh no.
Oh no. The party is over. That is a good show, though. I haven't seen it in a while, but everyone seems to be doing well. They all made a boatload of money, and now they're just rich.
Yep, and here we are.
Here, shit talking them. I am.
Yeah, here we are having Ben shit talk them. All right, right before the show, right before you came on, Ben was trying to decide what to name it. What did you ask me? Are we doing the downfall of the Patriots?
The demise of the Patriots.
The demise of the Patriots was the word you used. Ray, you ready to call it a demise?
It's the
a strong world,
season
right?
was a demise.
Yep.
I mean, are we ready to count out the 2021 season yet? I mean, no. I'm way too much of a homer to count out the 2021 season. I mean, they're already Super Bowl favorites in my mind.
I agree. I have them going like 13-3 this season.
Yeah, no, this wasn't an indictment on the future of the team, but it was more about the 2020, and this was basically that final nail in the coffin of the dynasty.
Right.
Everything moving on from now, it feels like a new era.
So if they'd have to restart a dynasty, you think?
I don't know. It just kind of feels, with Tom gone, it feels different.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels different, but
I won't count them out for next year. They've got a ton of money to play with.
Right.
If it comes down to that in free agency, who knows how it's going to shake out?
Yep.
They're going to have better draft picks than they typically do.
Yep.
So they're going to be in a better position to kind of leverage themselves into more talent. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Right. Ray, do you think it will be almost like a new dynasty? Do they have to start a new thing? Or is it just going to be one continuation?
I mean, we have to first see if it's going to be a dynasty or not.
Right.
No, I agree with Ben. Like, my eyes are bleeding because I said that, but I agree with that. It's without Tom Brady here, it's something different. And Conor, and you and I have discussed this on DPN commentary a few times. Like, I think what's getting to me now is, first of all, when Tom Brady left, we saw the true color of the bandwagon, and we saw a lot of people go down to Tampa Bay there.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
The Tampa Bay Gronkaneers, as I like to call them, and supported their boys. But, I'm starting to see other thing by so-called, quote, Patriots fans, because the whole Tom Brady was a system quarterback thing. They're now, again, ripping Belichick's system. It was all Tom Brady. And, there's a whole generation of spoiled brat Patriot fans who didn't live through any, and I lived through good times with the Patriots in the 90s and then into the 2000s with Drew Bledsoe. I saw them go to a Super Bowl. They lost it. But even I lived through the 2000 season and remember it vividly, and, very similar to this season type of thing. There's a lot of people that became Patriot fans after Tom Brady, and you can see it now because it's just a spoiled entitlement that comes out of their mouth.
Right. This is the first time we've ever had to deal with losing in 20 years since literally the 2000 season. Even in 2008, they still went 11-5.
And I'm cool with people criticizing the Patriots. I mean, you and I have criticized the Patriots at different times this season. I don't see the need to go out of our way just to bash the team. And it's like when people try to argue that Tom Brady's the greatest of all time, and then they just start ripping apart legends that have been on this team throughout this dynasty. And, Tom Brady's, defense has never been good. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. See, when you say that, because now you're ripping on Rodney Harrison, Ted Bruschi, Willie McGinnis, Vince Wilfork, Richard 100%. Seymour, guys who won 3 Super Bowls for the Patriots. Because when they won their first 3, Tom Brady was not the GOAT or what he was when they won their next 3 Super Bowls.
No, they were a defensive first team in like 2001, 2003, 2004. They played defense.
The book on Tom Brady at that point, and I've always hated this term because it really doesn't make any sense, actually, is he's a system quarterback.
Right.
He's a game manager. That's the term I hate the most. Game manager.
I hate that too. But way back in the day, they were like a defensive.
And it was always, okay, Manning's better, but Peyton wins. So that was the narrative in the first 3 championships. And it was, defense was the primary focus of that team, but you also had really good running games.
Yep.
And
Corey Dillon.
Well, Antoine Smith before that. And then Corey Dillon in 2004, for my money, is the greatest single-season Patriots running back I've ever seen.
Yep.
And I lived through Curtis Martin, and I loved him, but Dillon was special in 2004. So it was kind of these two different, when you look at the makeup of the first 3 versus the second 3 titles, it's almost completely different teams.
Right.
Some of the guys still hung over, but for the most part, they're wildly different teams.
Yep. And I feel like the defense, every time they won the Super Bowl, was actually good. There was a stretch in there where it was like all on the offense from like 2009 to like 2013-ish, when like those 3-4 years where Brady just had to score 1 million points for them to win. But then in 2014, I think that was when they got Darrelle Revis, right? And then 2016, they had Hightower. They started to get all the younger guys again. And then in 2018, obviously, the defense basically won it for them. They scored, what was it, 13-3? What was the score of the
13-3?
Was it, that was the score, right? Of that Super Bowl?
But that's why it's a team game.
100%.
Right? And this is when I hate getting into this argument about was it Brady or Belichick or what did Brady have, what Brady had. There's nothing worse to me than I hearing about like Super Bowl 50 or 52. Well, Brady would have had another ring. He would have had 7 rings if Bill Belichick's defense could have stopped anybody in that game. Well, you know what? If Tom Brady could have scored against the Giants in both those Super Bowls, he could have had 9 rings, right? Because the defense did their job against the Giants. You had the most explosive offense in the world and put up was it 17 points or whatever in the first Super Bowl?
In 07, I think they lost 20-17.
Yeah. So you know what? Are you going to blame the defense for that?
Right.
You know, so. And that's not me knocking Tom Brady, but I've now found that I've had to knock Tom Brady in order to defend that there was other players and coaching staff on this team outside of Tom Brady. And I don't like that I'm in that situation.
Right. Everyone's so absolute. It's like you either have to pick Belichick, you have to pick Brady. It's like you can't be like it was both of them. Everyone is so like one or the other. It's ridiculous.
Well, if you have to pick someone after the fact, like when one leaves and the other one stays,
right?
Why wouldn't you pick the one that stays?
Yes.
The other guy Tom wanted to leave.
Yep.
He wanted to leave after they lost the Super Bowl to the Eagles.
Yep.
He went to Kraft. Kraft said, we'll let you leave after this contract runs out.
Did you read The Dynasty?
I do my research. Don't you worry.
Okay.
So one of them wanted out.
Right.
The other one didn't.
Right. This is exactly what Ray and I have read in The Dynasty. That's why I thought you might have read it, because that's basically exactly what happened. Is that Brady was kind of wanting to leave then. Kraft convinced him to stay a little bit longer. And then at the end of last season, he went to Kraft's house and was like, I'm going to move on.
And Belichick was relieved by that.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and look, it
was just kind of time for like them to. Yeah, it was just it. It was like it was time for them to just break up, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was time to go. It was time to move on. And look, I'm not somebody who lives in the past. I'm not going to sit there and be like, well, we won 6 Super Bowls. I don't care about what happens in the future. Of course I do.
Right.
If we start going through 4, 5, 6 seasons of what happened this year, yeah, you're going to start hearing a very angry, frustrated Ray Rauth.
Right.
But right now, I'm sitting there going like, guys, we've had one bad year.
and it wasn't even that bad. It was bad. It was bad
enough though compared to what we've dealt with. Yep. But the other piece is like now we hear, look, Belichick has never made the playoffs without Tom Brady. True fact.
With the Patriots,
yeah.
The Patriots won the Super Bowl 11-5.
Yep.
They didn't make the playoffs at 11-5 with Matt Castle.
Right.
You know, like so. It just happened to be a year. Otherwise, they never would have missed the playoffs going into this season. And they would have done it without Tom Brady.
Right.
It's not very often an 11-5 team doesn't make the playoffs. It just happened to be one of those years.
That almost never happens. That was probably the only time I can think of since then. I don't think has it happened since then. Do you know? Do either of you know off the top? Has an 11-5 team not made the playoffs again since 2008? I mean, 11-5 this year, even with 7 teams, is probably a shoo-in, right? I think the Patriots before, when we looked at it, wasn't it if they went 10-6, they had like a 98% chance?
No, they had to go 11-5 when we were looking at the.
Oh, it was 11-5. They had a 98% chance. But even at that, so at 11-5, they were basically a shoo-in.
Yeah, it's not often an 11-5 team. It might happen in the NFC this year because of the NFC East, right?
Well, that's happened before. Is when the division just has 4 terrible teams, because that happened with the Seahawks a few years ago.
Well, and I'm interested
not a few years ago, but a while ago.
That year that the Patriots didn't, that 2008 result, wasn't there like team, like weren't the Chargers like a 9-win team or something like that?
Yeah, it might have been. And then they won their division. And then the Patriots and the Dolphins actually were 11-5. They were all jammed up at the top.
Yeah, they lost on a tiebreaker.
Yep. They were both 11-5. They lost on the tiebreaker.
Yeah, so the Chargers that year got in with an 8-8 record.
8-8,
just
go figure.
Barely beating out the Broncos. Yep. Also with an 8-8 record.
Jesus, yeah. I know some of that's just the luck of the draw. Same thing going on in the NFC. Like the Cowboys are somehow still alive, I think, and they have like 4 wins.
Yeah, so you got to put it this way: Miami, New England, Baltimore were all 11-5.
Yep,
and New England got bounced because of tiebreakers.
Right.
And yeah, San Diego went at 8-8.
Yeah, so at 11
on a tiebreaker.
11-5, they probably have 2 people winning the division, and one of them's going home. You know what I mean? So that's the difference between a home playoff game and not even being in the playoffs, which was insane. Speaking of the playoffs, one of my questions for both of you is a prediction for the playoffs. Who do you guys see coming out of the NFC, and who do you see coming out of the AFC?
All right. As I look, before the season started, I had Chiefs Seahawks in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
I can't in good conscience continue down the road with the Seahawks with the way their defense has played throughout the majority of the season.
Yeah, their secondary is just so bad.
I still can't go against the Chiefs.
Right.
So I still have to have the Chiefs coming in out of the AFC.
Yep.
But out of the NFC, I'm starting to talk myself a little more into Green Bay.
Yep.
And I don't love them, but they're looking better.
Right. I agree. I like the Packers. I think the Packers are a very scrappy team.
So when I look at the NFC, you got 3 teams.
Yep.
You got the Packers, you've got the Saints, and you've got the Seahawks.
Right.
I'm not the biggest believer in the Saints. I've seen them crap their shoes enough times in the playoffs to say, I just don't know if they have it.
Yep. And in general, even in the regular season, they didn't look too convincing versus the Chiefs.
I might go Chiefs, Packers.
Chiefs, Packers. I could be it. That could be it. Ray, what do you think?
AFC is easy. It's the Chiefs.
Yep.
In my mind, and it shouldn't sound easy, but it is. It's the Chiefs. The NFC, I agree. It's, I take this Patriots team with 6 wins and think if they were in the NFC, they're probably a playoff team this year.
Mm-hmm.
None of those teams are good to me. Like Ben said, I'm probably leaning towards Green Bay as well, but I'm still kind of like, To me, the Saints aren't very good.
Yep.
The Seahawks, their record is very deceiving. There was a lot of games they let teams come back. They could have lost to the Patriots. They could have lost to Minnesota.
Yep.
And there's another couple of games in there too where they could have had a record. I don't trust Arizona. I don't trust the Rams who blow out the Patriots and then lose to the Jets the following week. Tampa Bay is a different team now, half to half, not even game to game anymore.
Right.
So to me, there's been no consistency across that league. Honestly, this is going to sound crazy. If Alex Smith can get healthy and come back, I have really liked Washington since Alex Smith has taken over as quarterback. And I think if he would have started the season at quarterback, there wouldn't be a race in the NFC East right now. Washington would be running away with it.
Right. They have a very good pass rush. They have a very scrappy defense.
Chase Young is the
real deal. Exactly. They have
I told everybody that. Listen, when him and so I'm an OSU fan.
Yep.
And when him and Bosa were there, and I remember when Bosa was going to the draft, everybody in the NFL, Bosa. And I was like, you haven't seen nothing yet because Chase Young is the kid coming out of OSU.
Yeah, he has been dominant. That wouldn't totally surprise me either. I mean, I think it's going to be a long road for them because they're going to have to grind out a lot of low-scoring wins, but their defense could do it. I think probably the Packers. So you guys don't have any faith in the Steelers after these 3 losses, huh?
I didn't have any faith in them when they were 11-0.
Right.
Me neither.
No.
By the time they started to lose members of the defense, running game's not good. You're asking too much of a 37-year-old Ben Roethlisberger who's coming off of an injury year and elbow surgery. There was nothing really. You watch them and you go, yeah, they're good, but they're not this good. They're not 11-0 good.
Yep.
And what's happened over the last couple of weeks, you're seeing the result of a long, difficult season catching up to them.
Yep. Ray, you agree?
They're the 2019 Patriots.
Right.
Let's not forget that the 2019 Patriots that were built almost identical to this Steelers team.
Yep.
Went 9-0.
Right.
And everybody was saying, was it 9-0 or 8-0?
One or the other. It was at least 8-0.
He had said, I'm the most miserable 8-0 quarterback.
Yeah. But they were also the most overrated 8-0 team, too, because of the schedule that they're playing. You look at the games that Pittsburgh won, they barely beat Dallas. Like, they should have lost to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep, that's true.
They should have lost to Baltimore in that last game with RG3 as their starting quarterback, and then he went out and got hurt. I think it's McSorley, who came in.
Oh, yeah.
Their entire team was on the COVID list, and they barely pulled off a win. And I think that's when Tomlin came out and called it like Pop Warner football or Pee Wee football or something. They've been overrated all season. And Ben Roethlisberger is a problem.
He is at this point, right?
He's a problem on that team. They don't have a run game. They've got Juju and Clay and Mapletron, who are good players, but it's not enough. And that defense was keeping them in. As soon as Dunlap went down, I knew that they were in a lot of trouble.
Right. Could you guys see them just being one and dones?
Easy,
yeah, Ben, you think?
Yeah,
one and done?
It depends on who they come up against, but
the
way I look at it right now, they're likely a one and done team.
Just because right now it's like there's only going to be one bye all of a sudden, and it looks like the Chiefs are going to head right for it. There's only 2 weeks left. I mean,
Chiefs have it.
The Chiefs pretty much have it. I think if the Chiefs win, one more game, they're going to clinch it?
Yeah, because the next closest teams are the Steelers and the Bills, both at 11-3. And when you look at it, you go, well, Chiefs are obviously better than the Steelers.
Yep.
The Bills are right now better than the Steelers.
That's a team that we haven't even brought up. Do you guys see the Bills being real contenders?
real contenders, as in could
they
win
could go to the
Super
Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl this season. Yeah.
No, I don't see them as a Super Bowl winning contender. I see them as a team that could realistically make the AFC Championship game.
Yep.
But nobody other than the Kansas City Chiefs, I think, are Super Bowl contenders in the AFC.
All right, that's fair. Ray?
I'd have to agree. Unless we see Baltimore do again like what they did to Jacksonville and surge their way into the playoffs. If Baltimore surges, and I mean really surges, because that blowout that they had to Jacksonville on the weekend, I know it's just Jacksonville, that was something they needed to do.
100%,
they couldn't just beat Jacksonville. They had to win 45-0 or whatever the score ended up being. If they surge and take care of business, then I could see them giving up a fight to Kansas City.
Right.
I agree with Ben, though. Buffalo's a good team. They could be an AFC Championship team. I don't think they're good enough to beat Kansas City. Cleveland's a good team. They're not good enough to beat Kansas City. Yeah, right now it's just the Chiefs, unless Baltimore really surges and really finally put everything together.
What about Tennessee?
Tennessee. Is Tennessee going to make the playoffs, do we think?
They're 10-4 right now. They're tied at the top of the division with the Colts, who I actually predicted to win that division.
Oh, really? I thought the Colts were going to win. I don't have too much faith in Tennessee. I don't know about you guys.
You know what, though? But here's the thing. If you look at Tennessee and you look at Indianapolis, they're actually two teams that are built for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Good defense, good run games, good use of tight ends, game managing quarterbacks who haven't been making mistakes kind of going down the stretch. At the end of the day, would you have looked at the 2018 Patriots and said they're a Super Bowl contender?
No, honestly, I didn't think they were back then. I didn't think that team was built to go to the playoffs. Well, I mean, not built to win in the playoffs, I mean.
It's the NFL is starting to flip again, and the running back is. It's funny because when Patrick Mahomes came out and all that, this college style offense. And what I'm finding is there's two teams. You either have a college style offense or you're back to old school, grind the football, run the ball.
Right.
Have someone to game manager your team and have really good defense. We'll have to see. I thought that Tennessee was a Cinderella team last year. I didn't have them making the playoffs this year, so they've already exceeded the expectations I had of them. I thought Indy was going to sweep that division and pretty easy, but Indy's a team that probably plays below where they actually are too. I think that they've given up games that they should have won. They let Lamar Jackson throw the ball and run the ball all over them.
Yep.
They showed a lot of vulnerabilities. There's not a team outside of Kansas City in the AFC that I can sit there and say that's a Super Bowl contender.
Right. I agree. I think it's probably the Chiefs. I see the Chiefs just going straight to the AFC Championship. They're going to get the bye. I think they're going to win the first game right away, and then whoever goes to the AFC Championship is going to meet the Chiefs there. So we'll see what happens there. I did get some Patriots questions in on Twitter, so I'll ask you guys this first one. This is a tough one. Do you guys see any of the veterans this season retiring? If, for example, like the McCourty twins, Matt Slater, Julian Edelman, do you see any of these guys hanging up the cleats?
I don't know.
No?
I think that Devin McCourty signed a 2-year deal.
Yep.
I think he signed that knowing it was his last deal. I think he'll play it out.
Okay, yep.
I don't think the Patriots are going to re-sign Jason. Maybe that weighs into his decisions.
Right.
Maybe Jason retires and doesn't decide not to sign with another team. Matthew Slater's an interesting one. He's probably there. There's a lot of rumors about Hightower, which obviously would be devastating for me, Connor, because I freaking love Hightower.
And he's just a great linebacker.
Yep. And Patrick Chung has already said he plans on returning to football next year.
Yep. You don't see Edelman retiring?
Jules, I don't think he'll want to go out like this.
I don't think he will either. I think it's not his mentality. Ben, what do you think? Any chance they retire?
Listen, whatever the McCourtys do doesn't really surprise me. If they come back, if just Devin comes back, doesn't surprise me. If he ends up retiring, again, doesn't really surprise me. Slater, I expect back.
Yep, okay.
I expect Slater back. Bill Belichick just had absolute glowing words to say about him just the other day.
Right.
And Edelman, I can't see him retiring essentially due to injury like this.
Yep.
I'd imagine he's going to be in the NFL next year. I just don't know if it'll be with the New England Patriots.
Okay. All right, we'll see. Speaking of the receiver position, and another question, who would you guys rather see them get next year, Juju or Corey Davis? If Juju's still alive after that hit the other night. Ray, what do you think? If you had to pick between the two, I know you're a big Corey Davis guy.
I'm fanboying out over Corey Davis.
I know.
I cannot wait until he's a New England Patriot.
You think they will sign him?
I've already sent the message to Bill.
You have, okay. So, yeah. You DM'd him on Twitter, right?
I DM'd him. We're good. Yeah, yep. I got him on Snapface.
On Snapface.
Yeah. He knows. He knows I want Corey Davis more than anything. I've already told him, like, I will. Yeah.
Whatever it takes.
I will sit out the season if you don't sign Corey Davis.
Snapface, my face. What do you think, Ben? Who would you rather have?
This is going to be even more boring. I agree with Ray. I'm not completely sold on Juju Smith-Schuster.
Is it the TikTok dances or is it performance on the field?
Don't care about any of TikTok, social media. Don't care about that stuff.
Yep.
Performance on the field. I think he's a good player, but I can't see him really elevating his game much more than he already is. And I think Davis is a player that has another level to go.
Right.
And that's going to be above Juju Smith-Schuster. So I'd rather have that investment in Davis.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I don't think Tennessee will be able to sign him. So it's he'll hit the free market. Like out of all the big ticket guys like Allen Robinson and all those kind of guys, Corey Davis is at the top of my list.
Right.
Like he is the top of my list of who I think will explode. And if you can indulge me for a minute, if they could sign Corey Davis and draft Kyle Pitt and convert him to receiver to be like a DK Metcalf and keep Devin Asiasi and Keene as your traditional inline tight ends, this Patriots offense with me being quarterback would become explosive.
Right. It's like if they are able to do these types of things, they should be able to do a full 360. And that was my next question to you guys. What do you think the number one draft priority is for them?
Defensive tackle.
Defensive tackle, yeah. We've talked about that on DPN commentary. They really have missed Vince Wilfork. I feel like we have not truly replaced him since he's left. Ben, what do you think?
It also depends. Sorry, Ben. It also depends on how Bill Belichick sees this team.
Right.
If you see this as, look, I'm going to be with this team the next 3, 4, 5 years. We can be really good in 2 years. We can compete next year and really compete the year after. If that's the way he's thinking, then it might be quarterback. He might actually be looking for a replacement quarterback. If he's looking at it going, I don't want to coach much longer. I've only got my veterans. High's coming back. Devin's coming back. I've only got my veterans for another year, maybe. I've got a good enough core. I'm going to go get a Stafford or a Matt Ryan or a Jimmy Garoppolo, and I'm going to bring them in, or maybe Cam comes back, and I'm going to get a defensive tackle. I'm going to make my defense, because if the defense can stop the run,
they'll be fine.
Then they're a perfect defense,
right?
And then you've got the special teams. If you can't get a kicker, you bring Nick Folk back. You've got one of the best punters in the league. Then you just equipped your offense through free agency.
Right. Absolutely.
I think the I agree with you. I think it should be along the defensive line or maybe even in the linebacking room. But and that's predicated on what Hightower does, because you did bring up that point earlier that Hightower, and there are rumblings out there that Hightower might not come back at all.
Right, I have seen that.
So it's predicated on that. But I think the other big thing that we have to look at when talking about the draft is Josh McDaniels.
Right. Why do you think he's not coming back?
Listen, if I'm Josh and I have offers out there to be a head coach after this season, I'm taking them, especially with the uncertainty of what's going to be at the quarterback position.
Okay.
So if Josh goes, you're bringing in another offensive coordinator,
right?
Things are going to start to look a little bit different. Is that guy going to push for a quarterback, or is Bill going to go heavy on defense and try and figure it out after the fact? You brought up some names as potential quarterback. I don't necessarily want to address the quarterback position at the very top of the draft, because I feel like there's other areas of need, especially when there are capable veterans out there. You mentioned Stafford, Matt Ryan. Yep. The name you mentioned earlier, but not in relation to a potential future Patriots quarterback, is a name and I think I'm the only one that's mentioned this so far on the radio in New England, is Alex Smith could be an interesting option depending on what happens.
Okay.
He's got 2 more years, I believe, on his contract, but all his guaranteed money has already been paid for.
Right.
So he might end up be out there and available. And to me, he seems like the perfect type of guy that could be a good stopgap for the Patriots at the quarterback position for at least one season. He does not make very many mistakes. He's had single-digit interception numbers since, I think, 2011.
Yep.
He's a capable player, and you mentioned it earlier. If he had been starting for the Redskins from day one, they'd be in a much better position than they are.
Yep.
They'd probably be 8-6 versus 6-8 right now.
The football team.
The football team.
Did I say Redskins?
You did.
All right. The Washington
WFTs
or FTs, whatever they are.
TFs.
I think that could be a viable option. But you've got enough quarterbacks out there that could be a stopgap for a year or two.
Yep.
But the one I do not want to see back here, or obviously, is Jimmy G.
No faith in Jimmy G. I always kind of like Jimmy G. I don't know, though. He can't stay healthy.
I know I just mentioned Alex Smith, but Jimmy G can't stay healthy.
Well, Alex Smith's injury was more of like a freak accident. That like his whole leg thing.
Yeah,
that wasn't like, that's not like somebody who continuously gets injured. That was just a ridiculous injury, man. You guys, did you watch that too, Ray? Did you watch that, the 30-30? Where he almost lost his leg?
Phenomenal.
It was phenomenal. It was a great, you didn't watch it, did you?
I threw up.
You threw up. Oh, you did see it.
No, I didn't actually throw up.
But you saw
I did
his
see
leg?
it, and it was one of the grossest things I've ever seen.
Oh my God, dude.
If he would have played one snap this season, he should have got comeback player of the year.
I agree.
You know what I mean? He's definitely going to get it now. That's such an interesting thing, though, because one of the things I wanted to address when we were coming back after the Christmas break was the possibility of Cam Newton signing with Washington, right?
Mm-hmm.
Reuniting with Rivera.
Oh, right.
And I didn't even make the connection of Alex Smith come to New England, but Alex Smith would be a great, honestly, I've been on the Cam bandwagon, as you know.
Yep.
I would rather Alex Smith over, I don't think San Francisco ever should have got rid of Alex Smith. I think they made the wrong decision when they put Kaepernick in front of him.
Right. And the thing about that, when we go back to that, Alex Smith never really did anything wrong. He just got injured. Kaepernick came in and started playing well, but it was like Alex Smith was having a great season that year. He was on pace to bring them to the Super Bowl, like they went to the Super Bowl.
The one thing that he did do wrong and they got frustrated with him, was he wouldn't push the ball far enough down the field.
Yeah.
That would be a problem for them. They felt like their offense could become a little too predictable because he just wasn't pushing the ball further down the field.
Right, but that was when they had Frank Gore and they ran the ball like crazy. So they ran the ball. True. He never made any mistakes and they were phenomenal on defense. They would grind out so many like low-scoring wins. They were a wicked, tough, like scrappy team back then. I feel like that was like 2012? Maybe
before that,
maybe even before
2010, 2009.
Maybe 2010. I think the Saints won, right? Or the Packers. The Packers won in 2010.
When did Baltimore win it? 2012.
I thought it was 12.
Yeah.
The Patriots went in 11
right.
and lost to the Giants. So I'm thinking 12 because I think it was 2010. The Packers won.
Yeah, that's right. I think 2012 was Smith's first year in Kansas City.
Yep, that would make sense. And he got traded.
I thought 2012 he was still backing up Kaepernick.
You might be right. I'm double checking right now.
The years all blend together, man. 2012 seems like it was like somewhat recently, but it's going on 9 years ago now.
I kind of wanted to go back to 2012 and then go forward and skip 2020. But no, Alex Smith would be, and he would fit this offense,
right?
And you mentioned Josh McDaniels. Ben, I don't know if you watch our show. I assume you don't because nobody really does.
No, we do well.
No, we do well. No, but Conor and I have been big defenders of Josh McDaniels this season.
Until recently.
Okay, because I've never been a defender of his, so I want to hear this case.
Yep.
And over the last 3 or 4 weeks, this genius, this offensive genius who actually was pretty good with Tim Tebow when he was in Denver of, how to use this unorthodox quarterback. I've never seen somebody try to turn Cam Newton into Tom Brady as badly as Josh McDaniels was trying. To me, outside of a couple quarterback keeps, this just looked like the regular Patriots offense. And it shocked me because Belichick is so known for putting guys in positions for success. And to me, Josh McDaniels, vanilla, refused to change, awful pitch calls and running it 4 times in the red zone, and just it's time for him to go.
That's very true, man. He has barely thrown the ball inside the 10. It's like they almost don't even throw when they get down there. It's like they just run it 4 times to try and get it in.
I've had my issues with him for years. I never thought he was like a terrible offensive coordinator, but I always thought he was a little overrated. And then after the Rams Super Bowl, the tug job he was getting from Bill Belichick really started to put me off because it was like, first of all, you guys won this on defense. Your offense sucked
right
at the end there. It was not very good. And it just didn't make sense to me. And one of my major problems with McDaniels has always been this weird thing he'll do. At the beginning of the game, first series, this was more with Brady. Run, establish a running game, and it would be working.
Right.
They'd be going down the field. And then all of a sudden, series number 2, 3, 4, through the rest of the game, they would barely run. They would establish something that works, and then they would go away from it. And I realized just watching, I say, okay, if I'm a defensive coordinator, any team against them, loading up against the run on the first series, possibly the second series, the rest of the game, I'm going to say, I dare you to run on me.
Could I throw a theory at you, Ben?
Yes, please.
Because this is my theory. And I always say it's around 2015, kind of after Deflategate, that I said that Tom Brady turned into TB12. You know, kind of the way Terrell Owens turned into TO. I always said there's a big difference between Tom Brady and TB12. And TB12 had a different attitude, a different guy. Do you think that there was possibility pressure coming from Brady for McDaniels to call those passing plays and not stick with what was working?
Yeah, I do. But at the same time, that's when you, even if Tom's being a diva, your responsibility as the offensive coordinator has to be like, listen, we're not going to, this is how our offense is going to run. We're going to maximize you in this offense. You're going to have plenty of throws, but we need to set it up so that those throws are even easier for you. If we can establish the run and continue to keep a solid running game, your job's just going to get easier.
I just wonder if it's one thing I learned in the dynasty that I didn't realize. I knew it happened with the Jimmy Garoppolo thing, but was how much Tom Brady ran to Daddy Kraft.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. I didn't realize that either. Him and Kraft were always on the same page with everything.
Well, and they were tight, which is fine. But that book, it's funny because to me that book was designed to I believe, and I got nothing wrong with Jeff Benedict, the guy who wrote it. But I believe that book was written to put Belichick in a bad light and Tom Brady in the glory light. I really do.
You do? I thought he kind of tried to do it like very, like how he saw it, because I feel like he compiled so much stuff. It went all the way back to like 1976.
He compiled enough, but you can twist anything. You know, Ben's in radio. He'll tell you. You can take any quote. You can take any quote, anything, and use it the way you want. And Conor, I do it on our show.
Yes,
I take an entire article and read you one paragraph.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And we make our opinion and we make our narrative based on that paragraph, whereas the next paragraph in that article could have completely dismissed what they just wrote. But it's from an entertainment standpoint, it still needs. Sometimes the truth and facts aren't as entertaining as a narrative.
Ben, say your famous quote. The truth. Don't let the truth get in the. What is it? Don't let the truth get in the way of the lie. Don't let a good story get in the way of the truth.
Well,
that was your quote.
There's variations of it.
Don't let the truth get in the.
You know, when the legend becomes fact, print the legend.
Yep.
Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Yeah, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. You want to know one thing though? We got to move on because I want to ask you one last question. But one of the things that the Patriots used to do all the time back in the day that I loved was they ran the hurry up. Why don't they run the hurry up anymore? They used to run the hurry up offense all the time, and I felt like it always worked. It always kept the defense on their heels.
You got to have the personnel to do it.
Yeah. Right? You think that's the difference? I
think they had a tough time running. They ran it once this year.
Yeah.
I can't remember which game, and you could see that Cam was struggling with running the hurry up.
Right.
And I know they kind of stopped it with, they didn't do it as much with Tom Brady either. But again, when you run the hurry up, it's not just the quarterback and the receivers that have to be on the same page. The offensive line needs to know what's happening. And it's why I give like the Baltimore Ravens offensive line so much credit, because having a block for Lamar Jackson who could throw or run and you never know what he's going to do, to be able to not get ineligible man downfield penalties and keep in your lanes and know when to blocking, that takes a lot of skill. So it's not just on. People think like, well, Brady can run a hurry up. Let Brady run a hurry up. Well, no, the offensive line, the tight ends, the receivers, the running backs, the fullbacks, whoever's on the field, everybody has to be able to efficiently run a hurry up offense.
Right. Ben, you think the same?
Yeah, it mostly comes down to the offensive line. Ray hit it right when we started talking about this issue. Particularly last year when you look at it, without David Andrews there, that was a major problem.
Yep.
And your center and your quarterback have to be on the same page. Your center, I don't care what anyone says, your center is the most important offensive lineman. by a mile.
Right.
It's not even close.
Right.
Everyone can say blindside tackle.
We talked about
ridiculous.
this last night about the offensive line. Like it's somewhat easier to replace like guards and tackles, but it's so hard to replace a center.
It's much
I agree with you, and I agree with you, Ben, and I'll let you finish your point, but I think that the interior line is more important than tackles.
Yeah.
You know, guards and centers to me, and maybe it's because I was a guard and that's why I think this way, but you can teach a big guy to be tackle. You know, it's hard to be an interior lineman.
You can even teach a smaller guy to be tackle, just appropriately use leverage. I played quarterback, so this is why center was always my guy. I had to be on the same page with him.
Yep.
He had to know what I was doing. I had to know what he was seeing. And, I don't know if I've done this for you before, Connor, where I kind of did the display of how you sit in a pocket and how your vision is working.
Yeah.
That blind side, that's the least of my worries.
Right.
Because if he comes after me and I can sense out of my periphery that he's broken it, I have two viable options, which is to move forward or to move laterally in. Now, if the offensive line gets broken up the middle, I really have one realistic option, which is to move to my front side, which would be towards the right tackle. So if the left tackle gets broken, I have two viable options. If my center gets broken, I have one.
Yep. Yeah, I know.
And when you think of the run game, I mean, teams run outside, but a lot of runs come up the middle of the field. And it's not your tackles that open those holes. It's your guards and your center that open up a majority of those running holes for the running backs. So the interior line is so important to a team. And especially if you're looking at new modern day, they're also the most, and tackles hate when I say this, but like guards on a team are the most athletic of the linemen. You know what I mean? Because they do a lot of things. And the footwork is so much more important than a tackle. It's the interior of the line. And if you look at the new modern day defense, we're no longer talking about a lot of these edge rushers. We're talking about DeForest Buckner and Aaron Donald and guys that are just going to come flying up the middle. They're going to line up right over your center, and it's going to be up to your center or your guard to try to clear him out of the way. And if you think back to that Super Bowl where the offense was bad, not the offensive line, because David Andrews and Joe Thuney and Shaq Mason absolutely just took Aaron Donald out of that game.
Right. I forgot about that. Aaron Donald was almost non-existent in that Super Bowl. I don't remember him making any plays. I don't remember him being a problem at all.
Yeah, I agree with you. As much as people wanted to give the credit to the defense and Flores, I thought the offensive line was the best unit in that Super Bowl.
Right. Absolutely.
Tom played crappy behind them.
Right.
But he was given time to operate.
Yep.
Well, I mean, and if you think back to the 2007 Super Bowl, the undefeated year, the offensive line played horrible in that game. They got benched. The best offensive line in the NFL got benched in the Super Bowl because of how poorly or how much they were just letting the Giants run all over them, right?
Right.
The offensive line, in my opinion, on an offense, yes, okay, it sounds crazy when I say it, but it's more important than your quarterback, your running back, and your wide receivers. Because we saw last year, you had Tom Brady, but Marshall Newhouse at tackle.
Right.
Look what happened.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I know. He was a turntable, man. Everyone was just going right around that guy.
No, I think you're 100% right. Your offensive line is your most important element on the offense because, a lot of quarterbacks, they just need a little bit of time to make a decision.
Right.
And if they have that time, even some of the guys we look at as backups or also rans in the NFL, if they're given enough time, they can still make plenty of throws if need be.
Right.
It's like on the inverse, when we look at the defense, we go, okay, who helps more out, the defensive line or the secondary? Well, the secondary can't operate as well and efficiently if the defensive line isn't operating well and efficiently, and vice versa.
Yep, absolutely. All right, guys, my last question for you here is Patriots record prediction for the 2021 season. Ray, what do you think?
Oh, well, they're going to probably lose Monday night, and then they're going to beat the Jets. So 7 and
9 for this year.
7-9.
What about next season? What do you think?
Oh, 16-0.
16-0.
I can't give you next year. I got to see what happens.
I know.
Early
it's way too
predictions,
early.
11-5.
11-5. I'm hoping that's right around where they'll be. Ben, what do you think?
Considering what the makeup is right now,
Yep.
I can't in good conscience go any higher than 9-7.
All right. Depending on what happens. I know there's a lot. This is a tough question. There's so much uncertainty.
Position. Ray, I have a question for you, though, before we go.
Yeah.
I'm going to be off my radio show for the next 2 weeks. But when I return, would you be interested in doing a hit with us?
I absolutely would.
All right. Well, we'll set that up off the air. I can't wait till you pop on the show and give us some much needed Patriots positivity, because Lord knows there's none of it on the radio right now.
Not in this area. All right, guys. So, Ray, tonight, 9 p.m., this going up. Is that the plan? I know we're live right now on Facebook.
This is going up as soon as you put it on YouTube.
All right, perfect. So as soon as Ben puts this on YouTube, which should be 5 minutes, come on over and find us. Thank you, Ray. I will see you tomorrow. Everyone, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. Take some time off. Enjoy it. We will see you next week.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.